guys, this is Bearj at 7:55 and we are back. That's right, we are back after a 2 or 3 week hiatus. We're back and we are changing our format from a daily audio message to a weekly video message. I hope you like this format better. I think it's going to work better. I think it's going to get the point across a little bit better as well. So let's get on with today's message. Today I would like to talk about stress and how you can better equip yourself to deal with the day in and day out stresses that affect our lives. Let's face it, stress is nothing that we like to deal with. It's nothing to take lightly, but it is something that we do have to absolutely make sure we are effectively using and utilizing for ourselves, because stress can be a positive factor in our lives rather than a negative factor. You know, what most people think about when they think of stress is getting those goosebumps, those tingles, breaking out in a sweat, maybe hives, they get achy and cranky and their bones and joints hurt. That's not a good way to deal with stress. Stress is not supposed to do that to us all the time. It can do that to us if we allow it, but we don't have to let stress do that to us. We can change things by doing 3 simple things. We can deal with stress in 3 simple ways to better equip ourselves to have a better life when we deal with the day in and day out stresses that affect us. The first thing we can do to better prepare ourselves for stress is simply to be prepared. There's something called an active shooter drill that fire personnel, paramedics, firemen, they all work on together. They actually have this drill called an active shooter drill where they practice an active shooter being in a location or a building, and they take themselves through the paces of what will happen step by step if there were an active shooter in a building or in a location. So what if things were escalated a little bit? In fact, they do that once in a while. Instead of just walking through the procedure, once in a while, and they never know when, all of a sudden they will hear gunshots go off. It's blanks, it's not real, but in their minds it feels real. And the stress level goes up. But because they have practiced and because they have prepared themselves and drilled themselves over and over again, the stress doesn't overtake them. Their energy level goes up and they actually deal with everything in a much more concise and clear way. Their brain thinks clearly. They act together and form together as a team better because it feels real to them, and they have been prepared for this by working on it over and over and over again. And you can do the same thing. You can prepare yourself in the same way for the daily stresses that occur in your life. Let's face it, many of the stresses we deal with are the same things over and over and over again, yet we deal with them in the same negative way over and over again. That's going to take us to the second way to deal with stress. Look at things from a different perspective. You know, 2 people could go to the same party, and one person's interpretation of the party is it was so crowded, it was noisy, there were a lot of people there, there was a lot of food, but it wasn't good for you, and by the time I got to the table to eat anything, it was all gone. While the second person's view of the party could be, it was great, there were so many people, there were a lot of people to talk to, they had great food, in fact it was so good that everyone ate it up quickly, and there were so many people to talk to, I met new people, I got to catch up with old friends. 2 different perspectives of the exact same party. So take a different perspective on the stress that you are dealing with, and perhaps you can see it in a different way. That takes us to the third way we can deal with stress. So the third way we can learn to deal with stress is to simply look at the positive things. And we can do that by accepting a new paradigm shift. So back when the stock market crashed a few years ago, there were 2 groups of people. There was one group that tried to hang on to the way things used to be. They tried to keep their lifestyle the same, even though they lost their job or they lost income or they lost big time in the stock market. They tried to keep life the same way it was, and that was simply not possible for them. But then there was the other group of people who said, you know what? Life is different. We're going to have to change the way that we live. We're going to have to change perhaps where we live and the type of job I have. And when they did that, they were the group that ended up to be the most successful and were able to rebound from that stock market crash, land on their feet, and end up in a better place today than they were when the crash occurred several years ago. So you too can deal with stress in a better way as long as you learn how to manage it and look for the positive things that are occurring rather than the negative things. So number 1, be prepared. Number 2, Look at things from a different perspective. Number 3, be positive and be ready to accept a new paradigm shift. When you do that, life will get easier for you. That's what we're here for. That's our message for you today. Remember, like faith, motivation doesn't last. That's why we need to do it every day. This is Bearj Jehanian saying thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.